If you're over 65 and still driving the same way you have for years, 2026 could be the year you get fined, flagged, or even lose your license without realizing you broke a new rule. The most dangerous part? Many of these new driving rules don't feel new at all. Same roads, same signs, same habits you've trusted for decades, but underneath, the system has changed. Quietly, automatically, and permanently. Starting February 2026, multiple US states are rolling out enforcement rules that don't rely on warnings or direct police interaction. Cameras, algorithms, and insurance-linked databases are now doing the watching. You can be a careful driver, obey speed limits, never touch your phone, and still end up paying hundreds or thousands of dollars because of a single moment you didn't know was now illegal. This isn't about panic, it's about awareness. The drivers getting hit hardest aren't reckless teenagers. They're experienced drivers who assumed the rules hadn't changed. What makes 2026 different? The shift isn't about new laws, it's about new enforcement. Rules you think you understand are being interpreted more aggressively, enforced more precisely, and punished more expensively than ever. For seniors, consequences ripple into insurance rates, license renewals, and medical reviews. States are under pressure to improve road safety and recover infrastructure funding. Their solution? Automation. Automated enforcement doesn't care about your clean record or how long you've been driving. It doesn't issue warnings or explain itself. It records, reports, and forwards violations directly to your insurance company or DMV file. Many drivers assume they'd be notified if something was serious. But in 2026, notification often comes after damage is done. A ticket in the mail, registration suddenly denied, insurance jumping 25%. For seniors on fixed incomes, these aren't minor inconveniences, they're budget-breaking surprises. What's worse, impactful changes aren't happening nationwide. They're state by state, county by county. What's legal where you live may trigger a citation the moment you cross a state line. Prevention is the only real protection. You can't talk your way out of a violation logged by a camera. You can't appeal common sense to an algorithm. Hi, I'm James. Over the last several weeks, I've been digging through official DMV updates, state transportation notices, insurance bulletins, and legislative rollouts to understand what's changing on US roads in 2026 and how it affects everyday drivers, especially seniors. I'm not here to scare you or overwhelm you with legal jargon. I'm here to translate what the system is doing right now in plain language, so you can protect your license, finances, and independence. In 2026, the biggest risk isn't reckless driving. It's driving the way you always have, assuming the rules still work the same way. 1. Distracted driving. The silent ticket. Generator, distracted driving is no longer a secondary issue. For years, many states used secondary enforcement. An officer couldn't pull you over just for holding your phone. That protection is disappearing. As 2026 rolls in, over a dozen additional states have moved to primary enforcement. If an officer sees a phone in your hand or screen glow on your lap at night, that alone justifies a traffic stop. No speeding, no swerving, no warning. Enforcement has expanded what counts as use. Holding your phone to check directions, scrolling a playlist while stopped at a red light, tapping to dismiss a notification while traffic is paused. Many experienced drivers get tripped up here. Stopping at a red light felt like a safe pause. You weren't moving. But the law no longer sees it that way. If you're in the driver's seat, in control of the vehicle, with phone in hand, you're considered actively operating the car, even with your foot on the brake. The financial hit. First-time citations now land between $200 to $500 before court fees. But the ticket isn't the real problem. Insurance companies treat distracted driving as high-risk behavior. A single citation can raise premiums 15 to 30% for 3 to 5 years. If you pay $1,500 annually, that's an extra $225 to $450 every year. One glance at your phone costs over $1,000. For seniors already paying higher age-based premiums, this compounds the effect, and distracted driving citations are rarely forgiven or removed early. The fix: get a dashboard or vent mount. Use voice controls for calls, texts, and navigation. Train yourself. Stopped at a light, is still driving, hands on wheel, eyes forward, phone untouched. This mindset shift eliminates the most common distracted driving citations being issued. 2. Automated speed. Enforcement: no officer, no warning, no appeal. Speed limits aren't enforced the way they were 5 years ago. Automated speed enforcement has entered a completely different phase in 2026. AI-powered speed monitoring systems are rolling out, especially in construction zones. In states like Michigan, cameras paired with radar track your speed the moment you enter a zone. If workers are present and you exceed the posted limit even slightly, the system records everything. No officer judgment call, no warning wave. The citation arrives later by mail. The trap: cameras activate only when workers are present, but a single worker behind a barrier is enough. Temporary signs may look identical to inactive zones you've driven through dozens of times. Because zones shift locations weekly, memory is unreliable. Penalties escalate. First violation, warning. Second offense, $150 civil fine. Third, $300 plus. Even if your license isn't affected, insurance providers see the pattern and adjust rates accordingly. Unlike traditional tickets, there's little opportunity to contest. The system logged the speed, you exceeded the limit, case closed. School zone cameras, spreading rapidly across Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, and more. These cameras activate 30 minutes before school starts through 30 minutes after final bell. Speed limits often drop to 15 to 20 miles per hour during these windows, exceed by just 10 miles per hour, and your plate is captured. Most common complaint: confusion. I didn't see the sign, or I was slowing down. Don't matter. Courts consistently rule drivers are responsible for knowing when zones are active and adjusting immediately. Protection strategies: navigation apps like Google Maps and Waze mark school zones and camera locations. When you hear the alert, scan for signage and check your speed. Build mental buffers. Assume zones are active during typical school hours. In construction zones, if the sign says 45, drive 45, not 50, not keeping up with traffic. These systems are calibrated for exact thresholds. The margin that once existed has disappeared. SAN. Lower back limits. The shrinking sobriety margin. For decades, one number was burned into memory: 0.08. That was the legal line. In 2026, that assumption is no longer safe. Several states are moving toward 0.05 back limits, following Utah's approach. Years ago, Utah lowered its limit from 0.08 to 0.05, and fatal crashes involving alcohol dropped significantly. Washington, New York, and Hawaii are actively pushing similar reductions. Why this matters for older drivers. A back of 0.05 doesn't feel drunk to most people. It's a beer with dinner, a glass of wine at a restaurant, 2 drinks over a couple hours. Many drivers would have confidently driven home under those circumstances for years. Alcohol affects people differently as they age. Metabolism slows, medications interact, body composition changes. A drink that once had minimal effect may now raise your back faster and keep it elevated longer. Weight charts and timing rules are unreliable. The consequences haven't softened. States enforcing 0.05 apply nearly identical penalties to traditional DUI. Immediate license suspension, mandatory ignition, interlock devices, fines $500 to $2,000. Required alcohol education programs, possible jail time, insurance premiums that skyrocket for years. For seniors, a DUI triggers additional scrutiny during license renewal, raises insurance red flags, and can affect employment for those who still work or volunteer in roles requiring driving. The only safe rule: if you plan to drink at all, don't drive. Arrange transportation before the first drink. Use rideshare services. Ask family. Stay the night. The cost of a ride home is always less than the cost of a DUI. 4. EV fees. The free ride is over. For years, EV owners enjoyed lower operating costs and tax incentives. In 2026, that free ride is ending. For nearly a century, roads have been funded through gas taxes. Electric vehicles don't use gas, creating funding gaps. By January 2026, over 40 states have implemented EV road use fees, already showing up on registration renewals. The numbers: most fall between $100 to $200 annually. Some states use sliding scales tied to vehicle price or age. Others lock in automatic annual increases. In New Jersey, fees increase automatically. In Pennsylvania, they've already jumped significantly. For newer or higher-end EVs, annual costs can approach $250 plus. What's coming? Several states are testing mileage-based road usage charges. Instead of taxing fuel, they're experimenting with taxing distance. The more you drive, the more you pay. While currently optional or limited, the direction is clear. Distance-based taxation is coming. Action steps: check registration, renewal. Carefully read every line. Factor annual costs into EV purchase decisions. Understand how mileage programs work before enrolling. 5. Reckless driving. Redefined on-the-spot vehicle seizure. 2026 marks major expansion of what qualifies as reckless driving, and consequences go far beyond tickets. Law enforcement now has broader authority to seize vehicles immediately if certain behaviors are observed, even without injury or accident. What triggers seizure? Actions like spinning tires, drifting in empty parking lots, accelerating aggressively from a stop, or participating in informal street gatherings can trigger on-the-spot vehicle impoundment. In some states, officers don't need to prove racing only that driving behavior was intentional and unsafe under expanded definitions. Real-world impact: your vehicle can be towed immediately and held up to 30 days. No grace period, no fix-it option, no driving home. You're standing roadside while your car is taken. Many assume this only affects young people. Not true. Seniors can get caught unintentionally. Sharp acceleration to merge into traffic. Brief traction loss on wet surface or being present near risky behavior. In some states, simply being associated with a scene can trigger penalties. Financial devastation, towing fees, few $100s, storage fees, $50 to $100 daily. over 30 days, $1,500 to $3,000. Before addressing the citation, insurance consequences follow repeat offences, felony charges, and multi-year license revocations. Protection: if you find yourself near questionable situations, leave immediately. Don't linger, watch, or film. Distance is protection. 6. License renewal. Changes good news with conditions. States are reworking senior driver evaluations. Some long-standing requirements are relaxing, others are becoming stricter. The good. Several states have raised the age requiring mandatory road tests. Some drivers may not need retesting until late 70s or even 80s. This acknowledges that age alone doesn't determine driving ability. The bad. States are tightening other aspects, especially vision and in-person verification. In California and Florida, drivers over certain ages can no longer renew entirely online or by mail. They must appear in person to assess vision, physical mobility, and alertness, and confirm identity for fraud prevention. The problem? In-person appointments are often limited, with scheduling delays. Missing a required appointment has severe consequences. If your license expires because you failed to appear when required, it doesn't pause, it expires fully. Reinstating may require starting over. Written tests, road tests, full documentation. For seniors depending on driving for independence, medical appointments, groceries, or family care, this can be devastating. Critical action. Check renewal notices carefully and early. If in-person appearance required appears, treat it as urgent. Don't assume it's optional. Book appointments as soon as eligible. Family responsibility. If you have aging parents or relatives who drive, have a conversation now. Not about taking away keys, but about logistics, ensuring they understand the process, helping schedule appointments, offering transportation. 7. High security. Identity framework. Your license as legal ID. One of the most overlooked changes has nothing to do with how you drive. It's about how your license is treated as a legal identity document. States are moving toward high-security identity framework, fundamentally changing how licenses are issued, renewed, and validated. What this means: stricter documentation and tighter timelines. Renewing now requires gold standard proof of identity, birth certificates, verified social security numbers. For non-citizens, proof directly ties license validity to visa status. If your visa expires in 6 months, your license may now expire in 6 months. No extensions, no grace period. Many drivers receive renewal notices that look familiar, but buried in details is in-person verification required. Ignoring this quietly invalidates your license when it expires. No warning, no extra month valid to invalid overnight. Digital driver's licenses. States are rolling out mobile IDs, living in secure smartphone wallets. They're encrypted, tamper-resistant, and convenient. But here's what people miss. Digital IDs don't eliminate periodic in-person verification. Some states make in-person verification more frequent, specifically because digital credentials exist, preventing identity fraud, including AI-generated identities. The reality: even with a digital license on your phone, you may still need to appear in person every few years to confirm you're a real human being. Critical guidance: read renewal notices carefully and follow exactly. If it says in person, treat as mandatory. Driving with an invalid license carries serious consequences. Insurance may deny coverage, citations become more severe. Reinstatement can require starting entirely over. 8. Expanded move-over laws. Every hazard light matters. Move-over laws have existed for years. Most associate them with police cars and ambulances. In 2026, this rule has broadened significantly. The change. The requirement no longer applies only to emergency vehicles. It now applies to any stationary vehicle displaying hazard lights. Tow trucks, maintenance vehicles, and regular passenger cars stopped on the shoulder with hazards blinking. If you're traveling at highway speed, in the lane closest to the shoulder, and pass a stopped vehicle with hazard lights without moving over or significantly reducing speed, you may be committing a moving violation. In some states, fines have doubled or quadrupled. Penalties range from a few hundred to over 1,000, often with points added. Why the severity? Roadside fatalities have reached alarming levels. Emergency responders, tow truck operators, and stranded motorists are struck and killed every year. The expanded law treats a family broken down on the roadside with the same legal protection as a police officer. Required behavior shift. Flashing lights ahead are no longer something you register at the last second. They're an early warning. The moment you see hazards or emergency lights, check mirrors and plan a lane change. If you can safely move over, do it early with clear signals. If you can't move over safely, slow down significantly until you've passed. This isn't just about avoiding tickets. It's about protecting people in vulnerable situations. That stopped car could be your spouse, your child, or you someday. 9. Graduated licensing changes. Impact on families. The final change affects families more than any other, restructuring how new drivers earn full privileges. Many states are standardizing graduated driver licensing. One noticeable change: removal of a second road test, in some states, replaced with something stricter. A clean record probation period, typically lasting 12 months. Zero tolerance phase. Once a young driver earns an intermediate or provisional license, they enter zero tolerance. One ticket, one at-fault accident, one documented violation. Any of these can freeze progression or send them backward. In some states, that means extending restrictions another year. In others, mandatory safety classes or restarting the permit process entirely. Additional restrictions: tightening, nighttime driving, curfews moving from 11 to 9 for newly licensed drivers, passenger restrictions. Many prohibit any passengers under 21 except immediate family for first 6 to 12 months. Learner permit requirements, expanding from 6 months to 9 to 12 months. Supervised driving hours, increasing with more emphasis on nighttime experience. Why it matters. Young drivers need more guidance for longer. The system is no longer designed to quickly push teens toward independence. It's designed to test consistency, patience, and judgment over time. For families, this requires more involvement, supervision, and coordination. But evidence shows it works. States with stronger graduated licensing have seen significant reductions in fatal crashes among young drivers. The bottom line: all these changes point to a single truth. A driver's license is no longer a one-time achievement lasting forever. It's a performance-based privilege, constantly evaluated, whether you're 16 or 76. The system is paying closer attention to your behavior, compliance, and documentation than ever. Automation has reduced discretion. Data sharing has increased consequences. Enforcement has shifted from reactive to proactive. The roads aren't becoming hostile. They're becoming monitored. The drivers who fare best are those who adapt early. What you should do? Now first, take 10 minutes to visit your state's DMV website and review 2026 updates. Don't rely on memory. Second, if you drive across state lines, familiarize yourself with differences in phone use, speed enforcement, and alcohol limits. Third, check license and registration renewal notices carefully. If in-person visit is required, schedule early. Don't wait. Fourth, make small habit changes, eliminating risk. Keep phone out of your hands. Treat construction and school zones as absolute move over early for any flashing lights. Finally, talk to people you care about, parents, children, neighbors. Many changes are designed to catch drivers not paying attention. Sharing this information prevents stress, fines, and loss of privileges. A few minutes of awareness can save thousands of dollars and preserve independence. If this breakdown helped you understand what's changing and why it matters, consider sharing with someone who drives regularly, especially a senior or young driver in your family. Driving laws don't stand still anymore. Staying informed is now part of staying safe. Thank you for your time. Drive carefully, stay aware, and protect what matters.